There is a moment that happens in the quiet dark of every night, in homes across every country on Earth, that most people have stopped noticing because it has become so ordinary. Your dog circles once, perhaps twice, then lowers their body with a slow and deliberate exhale, and they press themselves against you, not near you, not beside you, but against you, with a weight that feels almost intentional, almost chosen, and then they sleep. You have seen this 1,000 times. You have smiled at it, pulled the blanket a little tighter, perhaps taken a photograph of it, and told yourself a very simple story about what it means. You told yourself your dog sleeps with you because they love you, and that story feels right, doesn't it? It feels warm and sufficient, but that story is incomplete in a way that should genuinely stop you in your tracks, because what is actually happening in that moment, at the level of neuroscience, evolutionary biology, and canine cognitive psychology, is something so layered, so ancient, and so profoundly sophisticated that it will permanently change how you understand every single night you have ever spent with your dog beside you. The assumption most people carry is that co-sleeping is a comfort behavior, a canine preference for warmth, or a simple expression of affection, something sweet but ultimately unremarkable. What the science reveals is something almost incomprehensible in its complexity. Your dog is not simply sleeping next to you. They are running an ancient biological program that predates domestication by tens of evils thousands of years. A survival protocol so deeply encoded into their neurology that it continues to operate every single night, whether you recognize it or not. And here is the question that should genuinely unsettle you. The question that researchers at institutions, like the Max Planck Institute for Evolutionary Anthropology, have been growing urgency. What does your dog actually know about you, in those hours of darkness, that you do not yet know about yourself? To understand what is truly happening when your dog chooses your bed, your body, your warmth, you must first travel backward, not years, but millennia, to the proto-wolf populations of the Pleistocene, approximately 15,000 years ago, when the behavioral architecture of the modern dog was first being carved by evolutionary pressure. In the wild pack structure of ancestral canids, sleep was never a private event. Sleep was a vulnerability, the single most dangerous interval in a day of survival, and the way wild canids managed that vulnerability was through what behavioral ecologists now term co-sleeping coalitions, tightly clustered sleep groups in which every individual both received and contributed to collective thermoregulation, threat detection, and social bonding reinforcement simultaneously. This is not an incidental habit from the distant past that dogs have simply outgrown. It is a core behavioral imperative that has been selected for, generation after generation, and what the work of Dr. Anindita Bhadra and her colleagues studying free-ranging dogs in India has illuminated is that even dogs without human households, living entirely outside of domestic settings, spontaneously organize their sleep into contact-based clusters. The behavior does not require a home to emerge. It requires only the presence of a trusted individual. And your dog has determined, through a neurological evaluation process you were never consciously aware of, that you are that individual. Now here is where the science becomes genuinely astonishing. When your dog presses against your body in sleep, they are not merely seeking warmth in any passive or general sense. They are engaged in a highly specific biological process called social thermoregulation, a mechanism studied extensively in the context of allostatic load reduction, documented in research from the University of California, Berkeley's Greater Good Science Center, in which shared body heat between bonded individuals actively modulates the hypothalamic pituitary adrenal axis, reducing baseline cortisol secretion in both parties simultaneously. You are not just warm to your dog. You are chemically stabilizing your body heat, your respiration rhythm, your heartbeat. These are not background noise to your dog's nervous system. They are regulatory signals. Research into the Vomeronasal processing system of domestic dogs, the accessory olfactory architecture that sits entirely separate from their primary olfactory bulb, has demonstrated that dogs can detect micro fluctuations in human cortisol, adrenaline, and even glucose levels through olfactory chemosignaling, with a sensitivity that exceeds any instrument currently available in clinical medicine. In the hours that you sleep, your body produces a chemical autobiography, a continuous, shifting aromatic narrative composed of hormonal metabolites, sebaceous secretions, and volatile organic compounds, and your dog, pressed against you, is reading every word of it. They know when you are dreaming. They know when your stress has not fully released from the day. They know things about your physiological state that your own conscious mind has not yet registered. And this is not metaphor. This is vomeronasal processing operating at peak sensitivity in a low distraction environment, exactly the kind of environment that researchers from Eötvös Loránd University in Budapest, working within the Family Dog Project, have identified as optimal for the depth of canine social cognition. But the intelligence operating in that quiet room goes even further than chemistry. Dogs are one of the only non-human animals on Earth to display what cognitive scientists call the left gaze bias, a neurological tendency to process human facial information by looking specifically to the right side of a human face, which corresponds to the human brain's left hemisphere, the hemisphere most associated with emotional processing. This bias, documented extensively by Dr. Kuhn Guo at the University of Lincoln, does not appear in dogs interacting with other dogs, nor with other species. It appears exclusively in the context of human social engagement. What this tells us is that your dog's brain has been architecturally modified through the unique selective pressures of domestication to read human emotional states with a specialized perceptual apparatus that has no evolutionary parallel in the animal kingdom. And in sleep, in those long hours of physical proximity and physiological openness, that apparatus does not simply switch off. It continues its quiet, devoted work. Your dog is monitoring the rhythm of your breathing. They are responding to micro-movements in your body, to the subtle postural shifts that accompany different stages of sleep architecture, differentiating between your N2 slow wave cycles and the rapid eye movement phases with a sensitivity documented in studies from the Hungarian Academy of Sciences, which demonstrated that dogs themselves display homologous sleep stage patterns to humans, including REM phases, during which their own neurological activity mirrors the complexity of dreaming minds. You and your dog are, in those hours of shared sleep, dreaming in parallel, running ancient neural programs in the same quiet room, under the same blanket, regulated by one another's chemistry. There is also a phenomenon happening during co-sleep that belongs to a category of bonding, behavior known in ethological literature as allo-grooming, the cross-individual physical contact that consolidates social hierarchies and reinforces attachment in group living species. In dogs, the sustained physical contact of sleep against a trusted human partner triggers a measurable elevation in oxytocin, the neuropeptide that the Karolinska Institute research has shown operates bidirectionally in the human-dog bond, releasing simultaneously in both species during moments of close physical contact. Your dog sleeping against you is not a one-directional act of need or dependency. It is a mutual neurobiological event. The oxytocin that floods your dog's makeish system as they settle against your warmth is flooding yours as well, even while you sleep, even without your awareness, reinforcing the attachment architecture that evolution spent thousands of years building between your species and theirs. This is the truth that the soft, ordinary image of a dog curled beside you contains. Not sentiment, not simple preference, an entire universe of evolutionary intelligence, operating silently, devotedly, in the dark. When your dog chooses your bed, they are not asking for something. They are offering something. Something that their species has been perfecting for 15 millennia. Something that no other creature on Earth has developed in quite this way. They are offering you their presence as a biological gift. They are saying, in the only language evolution gave them, that you are their coalition, their anchor, their safe harbor in a world that moves too fast and asks too much. And the extraordinary thing, the thing that should settle into you slowly, like warmth, is that you have been saying the same thing back to them every single night, without ever knowing the language you were speaking. This is what Canine Mind and Care was built for, not to simplify the dog into a companion, but to honor them as the deeply cognitive, emotionally sophisticated, neurologically remarkable being that science continues to reveal them to be. If this film has shifted something in how you see those quiet hours of shared sleep, if it has turned something ordinary into something luminous, we invite you gently to subscribe to this channel so that this conversation can continue. And if your dog sleeps beside you tonight, we would love to hear your story in the comments below. Not a summary, your story, the specific warmth of it. Because that story, it turns out, is also science.